Yo, what's up? Today I'm talking about my conversation with Chad, the Uber driver. All right, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Kane. I'm the Silver Bachelor. This channel is 100% dedicated to dating advice for older guys. If you're new, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification button because I'm dropping a video every day. All right, my conversation with Chad, the Uber driver. First of all, his name was not Chad, okay? If you haven't heard the term Chad, Chad means basically a hot dude, in essence, right? It's a dude that's like a 9 or 10 out of 10 in terms of somebody who's attractive, who is a high value man, maybe to a woman. So it's just a term that's been thrown around of like that guy's a Chad, right? Okay, so this guy, tall, dark, handsome, young. I think he was 28 years old, and we just hit it off. Like, so we get in. I get in the car. He's driving a Tesla Model 3, I guess, and so he's like, "Hey, man, where are you off to tonight?" And I said, "Oh, I'm on my way to a date." And he's like, "Oh, fantastic." So we get in the conversation about dating. I tell him about this channel, and then he starts sharing and giving me some advice based on dating apps. Because I'm like, "So listen, man, how do you meet people?" And then he says to me, he's like, "First of all, he almost never uses dating apps." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I agree with that. Dating apps are pretty much a waste of time. If this is your first time on my channel, I will share this. I've said this many, many times in many of my videos. This is what happens on dating apps. When a woman joins a dating app, doesn't matter her age, if she's at least average in looks and she is pretty, right? She will get at least 50 to maybe 100 messages per day, right? 50 to 100 messages per day on that dating app when she just joins. Isn't that crazy? So by the time you see her profile days later, you're lost in the mix, man. And look, you don't have to believe anything I'm saying, but like, look at me, okay? I'm an older guy, you know, pretty decent looking. I keep myself in shape, and I do not have any success on dating apps. Sometimes I'll try like a new app just to see what it's like. But in general, look at me, like and okay, when I say success, what I'm talking about is at least a 7 out of 10. No women 7 out of 10, pretty much. I don't make any connections. I don't get any messages back, no likes, whatever. So if I were willing to settle for like a 4, 5, maybe 6, sure, I could meet some people. But I'm attracted to attractive women who, in general, yes, I will go out with a 6, depending on her energy, because maybe her energy brings her up to like a 7 or 8, or what she's dressed like, whatever. So yes, 6, sure, sometimes. But in general, dating apps, I'm swiping or whatever, and it's usually I'm looking for like a 7 at minimum. Okay. So this guy goes on and tells me, he says, the best way to meet women, and I'm all ears, man, because I'm just curious. Yes, he's 28, right? I'm not in my 20s, not in my 30s, right? So not in my 40s anymore. Damn it. I'm not disappointed about it. I'm actually really, really happy with where I am in life. So, and by the way, as you get older, it gets easier to meet women. This is crazy, man. So I was married 20 years, single 2 years, and it's easier for me to meet women now. There's a I don't know what percentage. If I had to say, I would go so far as to say 60%, maybe 70%. I would say maybe at least, like realistically, 60% of women are into older guys, like substantially older. So I'm constantly dating women like around half my age. Not that that's my preference. My age range, no judgment. My age range is from 20 typically to 45. And I know that's that's quite a range, but it just depends on the energy they bring, the vibe, how I feel around them and stuff like that. Typically that's the range, 20 to 45. But here's the reality. Most women over 35, they have children. Not a deal breaker for me, but ideally, I'm dating somebody who does not have children because I don't have children. So back to this guy. So he goes, just looking at my notes, he says, the only way, or the best way to meet women is in a situation where that woman, over a short period of time, can form a connection with you. So I'm like, okay, keep going. So he's like, women want to form a bond after several times of meeting. So he said they want to meet in a natural environment. So if you belong, he said, I encourage you to join some meetup groups, which I am part of. Or he says you join some hobby clubs, like some clubs that are hobby specific. You teach English, something like that. You're volunteering. So in situations where they just keep seeing you and interacting with you, because remember, women by default, when they don't know a guy, they're they're on alert with that guy, like, because they have no idea who he is. You have no idea. I will just say this: there's been so many dates where, before even meeting them, and I've said, hey, if you like, I can get your Uber. And they've come back and said, sure, I don't mind that, but I'd prefer, I'm not going to give you my real address because maybe you'll come to my place and murder me. And they're kidding, but they're not kidding. So just remember that, guys, that by default, women are afraid of men, or they're cautious, and they're prey, right? That's really sad. So just keep that. So that's why women want to form a connection with somebody first before going, you know what, I'm going to go out with this guy. So I'm going to share this story. A friend of mine in Canada, so she been single for a little while. I don't know, 6 months, a year, or a couple years. I can't remember exactly what she said. And so I asked her, I said, well, how are you meeting people? And she's like, well, I'm not going to do dating apps because it's overwhelming. So back to my point earlier, right? And then she says that she recently met somebody and they've been dating for 4 months. I'm like, fantastic. How'd you meet him? She's like, well, I really wanted to learn how to salsa. So she met him at salsa classes. So to this Chad's point, that's 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 a fantastic way. So for myself, I meet a lot of women when I'm out DJing at parties, at events. We have a Beltline here in Atlanta. It's a 20-mile oversized bike path, essentially, right? And there's stores, there's restaurants. So there's this one area that I go, set up, bring my DJ gear, and I just play, like, under a bridge. It's a big, huge bridge with murals and things like that. Super cool. And women will come up to me and be like, oh, I love your music. We should connect on Instagram. And then maybe they'll message me later, or maybe I'll message them or whatever. Not all women am I trying to get a date with, but I mean, when it seems like, okay, there might be something here. So that's one of the top ways that I meet people. I also meet people when I'm being introduced to new friends. So I'm, like, for example, last night I went to a birthday party, and I just met this couple a few weeks prior. They said, hey, do you want to come over to our birthday party? I met a bunch of people. There was no single women there, but I'm just giving you an example that that's another way when you start going to all these social functions with friends, is you start getting introduced to new people. So that's what I prefer. And to this guy's, the Chad, the Uber driver, to his point, that is exactly true, especially if you want to date women that are sevens, eights, and nines, that they want to form a connection first. One last story is, there was a Valentine's party in this building. So I live in Midtown Atlanta. This is a real spot. Walking over here, see, man, this is a real spot. And this is what's called the Sky Lounge in the building. So they had this Valentine's event here in the building, and there was a lot of people that I haven't seen before. There was a woman in at the party that was a 9. Oh yeah, she was gorgeous. I was like, I'm gonna work on my game. Not work on my game. I'm gonna practice, and I'm gonna go up to her at some point. Basically, I want to leave this night getting her number, whether we go on a date or whatever. So the good news, bad news. The good news, we really hit it off. I approached her. We had a conversation. I walked her home because she actually lives close to here. And I did not ask her for her number or ask her to connect on social media at all. I just kept it very low key. She actually asked me, "Hey, do you want to connect and do something later?" I'm like, "Fantastic." She gives me her number. She gives me her social. I made a bit of an exception on this one, guys, because she's a 9. I asked her out. She said yes. Then she kind of flaked on me. She didn't respond to my message. I'm like, mm. So, second time around, I ask her out. She kind of flakes on me again. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not having this. So, second time, I said to her, "Look, I've already asked you out twice and you're coming across as flaky. So, just tell me if you're not interested, I'll move on." So she's like, "No, no, 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 no. No, I'm actually interested. I really want to go out with you. Let's go out tomorrow." So I'm like, "Okay." Tomorrow comes, and I said, "Hey, why don't we meet at 5? Does that work for you?" Uh, Clearly, she didn't, or not clearly, she didn't respond. So that's it. And you know what I did, guys? I blocked her. Why? Because this is the trap that we get into as guys. We make a few attempts, they're clearly not interested, and then we don't block them, and then they message us months later, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And they just keep flaking on you and disappointing you. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. Three times. And I don't do that. I'm rarely do the 3-time thing. I do the twice, and if they flake on me, I may not block them. But the fact that she flaked on me 3 times, I'm like, oh no, 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 no. I blocked her. So, and reason is because, again, like I said, I don't want somebody to come back into the scene, mess me around, and play games, because that's the pattern of this person. So I'll probably see her at the building sometime for some pool party or whatever. And then she'll probably say, "Why did you block me?" And I will fucking tell her. I'll say, "Look, not in a confrontational way, but I'll just say, look, I'm not interested in female friends. I got lots of friends. And most importantly, if I'm going to have a friend, they need to be reliable. And I'm sorry, you're not reliable." She may say, "Oh, could you give me another chance?" Then maybe I would. But so, Chad, the Uber driver, just wrap this up. The best place to meet people is this in places, like I said, where they can see you multiple times and establish a bond and a connection over multiple times. So hope you enjoyed this video, man, and let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you next time.